So let's settle in to this mixed level yoga class, finding a comfortable seat. Really feel into that seat. I want us to begin sensing our bodies and not taking any way we sit, stand, walk, move for granted. So feel into your own body. Notice how your seat touches your block or your cushion or your chair. And do your sit bones land evenly? If they don't, see if you can rearrange your base a little bit. The best way I've been trained to do this is take your inner thigh down and your sit bone. You actually kind of hold on to the flesh and sit bone. You take it wide back at a diagonal and then inner spiral the other side. And we work towards balance. And then we sway forward to back. It's kind of like finding the four corners of your feet. You're finding the four corners of your seat. And though your pubic bone and tailbone don't touch, we bring them pretty even with each other, forward to back. And we have the diamond of our pelvic floor. And you make sure that your spine has its neutral lumbar curve. And if it doesn't, you rearrange so that it does, because we do not want to put compression on the discs of the spine. We want to bring the chest and torso upright so we can lift the heart and rest the head back. This will make it easier for us to open three-dimensionally with the breath. Invite your breath down deep into the belly and the side bodies and the low back. And we begin with the practices of pratyahara, turning inward, and pranayama, breath. When you exhale, see if tension from your body can release and roll out on the breath. You may know the habitual places where you hold tension. Can you invite the tension to ride out on the exhales? And as you soften the torso, then fill three-dimensionally on the inhales. Relaxing the shoulders, the jaw, the eyes on the exhale. Expanding gently on the inhale. Breathing space between the vertebrae. Breathing space between the ribs. Invite the breath now to roll up your back body, expanding the back waistline, the back ribs. Maybe you can feel the ribs pull a little bit away from the spine, creating some space with breath. Many of us in the modern day world don't open the back tissue of the lungs. So we invite the breath to roll up the back body so that we remember to open the back tissue of the lungs. And then see if you can breathe into the outer edges of the back body, opening those areas of the lungs. And let the breath wrap around to the side bodies, expanding you side to side. And breathing out into the inseam of your shirt. Feel if your ribs can expand into the inner arm. Can you breathe this whole back hemisphere of your body open? And as you breathe the back body open, notice how the head sits over the spine. If your head had come forward as you opened the back body, that's fine. Now invite it to rest again back over the spine. And with the eyes on the front body closed, imagine opening your eyes on the back of the head and look out behind you. Still breathing into the back body. See what's behind you as if the back body had become the front body. Breathe into your new front body. As you gaze out through the eyes on the back of your head, let's pretend that's our front body now. And as you continue to breathe into this hemisphere of the body we've been opening, also invite the breath into your belly. Notice if your breath is expanding and if you can feel the diaphragm moving, ballooning down into the abdomen a little bit on your inhales, which is what allows us to expand the side waist and the back and the belly. Now invite the breath up into the front ribs. Invite it to expand the sternum forward, even as you still expand the back hemisphere of the body and look out the eyes on the back of the head. Breathe into the whole circumference of your torso. And then breathe length up your spine. Relaxing your shoulders and your jaw and your eyes. Breathe up the length of your spine and imagine the hot air balloon picks you up from center palate. Let your spine dangle down towards your seat. Shoulder blades comfortably on the back ribs. Open across the front collarbones and breathe a lift to the heart. And see if even as you gently lengthen the spine and breathe a lift to the heart, if you can still breathe into the full circumference of the torso. Relaxing on the exhales. We brought in a third limb of yoga, Dharana, in our concentration of three-dimensional breath. Now let's inhale our hands to our hearts. May we be present and build our awareness in this practice today of our foundation, of our knees, our hips, our moving parts. May we listen in to the intelligence of the body and experiment. Namaste. Okay, let's come to standing. And let's begin with a gentle sway back and forth, floating one foot off the floor and then the other, letting the arms swing. See how many exhales they swing for, and then how many inhales. And as we come into gentle movement, can you still invite in a three-dimensional breath, bringing the pranayama right into the asana practice, releasing your hands, your elbows, and your shoulders. Feel how your feet touch down on the floor. Notice any tenderness, any tightness. And then let your feet ground and inhale. Reach the arms up to the left and let them circle down to the right, just stretching the fascia in the body. Fluid breath. Remembering this idea that we don't have to work at 100% of effort and stretch every single part in this one moment. Release the hands towards earth and inhale up the other way and circle. And maybe you're just circling the shoulders or the arms halfway up or the arms towards the sky. Feel your spine move. And then rest your arms down and turn your feet in towards the inner arch, lifting the pinky toe side of your foot. And ground the big toe ball mount and stretch across to the pinky toe ball mount. Roll out to ground the outer heel. And lift your arms up into your cactus position. And exhale, bring your pinkies towards each other. Knees bend slightly. And we align them out over the second metatarsal. We don't drop them into center or force them out towards the pinky toe side, keeping the arches of the feet even. We inhale, lift the heart and stretch the elbows apart, and then exhale. Knees are bent, and we open the spine, stretching the heart open, and then we release in cat curl. Feel how your weight is distributed on your feet. The heel, inner and outer grounding. Big toe ball mount to pinky toe ball mount. No gripping in the toes. 3 arches, like a cushion to your foot. Open the arms and stretch skyward, straightening the legs. Reach each finger skyward as you root the feet. And bend the elbows and bend the knees. And then press the feet into the ground as you reach the arms skyward. And one more time, bend and press. Now press the right foot into the floor and reach the right arm long, stretching the fascia on that side body, and then stretch the other side. Legs are open a little wider today, and you can reach the hand across at a diagonal from this larger base. See what fascia stretches. And even as you're stretching the upper body, can you stay conscious of your feet grounding you? If you tend to flatten the inner arch and pronate, see if you can lift that arch. If you tend to roll out to your pinky toe side, ground the big toe ball mound and inner heel. And come back to center and release your arms and roll one shoulder and then the other and let your feet move again. And let them kind of knead the ground like cats when they knead the cushions. Let your feet knead the ground as your shoulders roll. It's one thing about animals, they really know how to stretch. Watch your animals stretch. Join them in their stretches this week. I guess we're at the end of the week, this weekend. Let your elbows roll. Just lubricating the joints, opening the arms and swaying the legs. You can point the toes and then land so that you stretch the fronts of the feet. And then land the feet and step wide and turn the left foot out and take the right heel back and open your arms and bend into the front knee, Virabhadrasana 2. Make sure that the knee aligns right over the second and third metatarsals. We want the femur bone down on the tibia directly so that it doesn't injure the meniscus. Now just imagine if you roll your knee in, how you're going to open one side of the knee and pinch the other. You'll kind of stretch open the inner knee and pinch the other side. This puts different wear and tear on the meniscus and the cartilage of the knee. We don't want that. So we feel into the four corners of our feet. In the back leg, we ground the outer heel and lift the inner arch and draw up towards the pelvic floor. And we maintain this stability as we bring the left hand to the femur and the right arm alongside the ear. Now feel all the way up from the inner arch of the back foot to the inner knee and see if you can activate that vastus medialis, this inner quad, lifting the inner knee up towards the groin. And if you'd like to, come lower in your Parsvakonasana. Feel the roots of the four corners of your feet as you turn the heart towards earth and turn the heart towards sky. Feel into keeping your knees well aligned, femur bone over tibia, in a different position in both knees, but still femur bone over tibia, the main shin bone. And then exhale, float yourself back up, come into your Virabhadrasana, your dancing Virabhadrasana. Keep lifting the back leg femur bone back so that you ground into the outer edge of the foot and lift that inner arch. And exhale, back up, straightening the front leg. Check in with your knees that you're not hyperextending them as you tilt into your high Trikonasana. Keep your arms parallel to the shin and build strength along your waistline. Try to really lengthen both sides of your waist. I'll take this floppy shirt off. Fluid breath. Really roots through the legs. Check in with how the femur bone meets the tibia. If you hyperextend your knees, you're throwing the shin bone behind the upper leg bone, which really pinches the tissue inside the knee. Exhale, float yourself back up and turn the left leg in and the right leg out. And check in that the front foot is pointed straight ahead as you bend the knee right up over the ankle or behind the ankle, and open your arms and rest them on water. Let your gaze look out over the front fingertips and your eyes rest back in their sockets and come back to that three-dimensional breath. Can we stay with our three-dimensional breath and still be aware of the four corners and three arches of our feet? Can the front knee point straight out over the second metatarsal, like there's a headlight on the knee? And bring your front hand to your femur and left arm alongside your ear and root the four corners of your feet down. Press the feet into the ground and lift through the pelvic floor to lengthen the spine, perhaps coming lower. And we draw the forearm that's on the femur bone back towards the hip crease, and we lengthen this underside body. Find that length here, that strength in the lower side. Beautiful. Broad across your shoulder girdle. Check in again with that back knee. We want the femur bone directly over the tibia. Don't throw that knee behind you. Keeping the front knee strong and aligned, we exhale back up through Viratu to dancing warrior. Shoulder girdle broad, spine spacious. Feel how rooting from the pelvis down creates stability for the upper body. And exhale, float up, straightening your front leg, femur bone aligned right over tibia. We come into our long, high Trikonasana. Keeping that lower side body strong, strengthening the upper side, releasing the shoulders away from the ears, shoulder blades on the back body. Beautiful, Anne. Fluid breath. And exhale back up to center and turn the right leg in and step together. Mountain pose. Feel how you balance yourself in your mountain pose. Fluid breath. And let's try our foot exercise one more time where we take our blocks and we create a space for our arches and we step our feet up onto the blocks. You want your inner and outer heel on one block. You can have the whole circle of your heel on that block. And then the metatarsal arch from big toe ball mound to pinky toe ball mound on the other block. And your arches are right up over that center where there's space. Now feel into grounding your big toe ball mound and reach across and ground your pinky toe ball mound. Ground your inner heel and ground your outer heel. Feel into the arch of the inner foot and the arch from pinky toe to outer heel. We want to maintain those arches. If you tend to roll out and supinate, which I know some of you do, feel for that arch from pinky toe to outer heel. Activate that arch. Fluid breath. Hug in the banks of your river. And from the outer hips, reach down through the outer leg into the outer heel. Feel into the knee now. Is the femur bone directly over the tibia? Feel into your pelvis. Notice if you tend to tilt your pelvis forward or tilt it back, tucking your tail under yourself. Bring the pelvic bowl to neutral, sitting right on top of the femur bones, which are comfortably over the tibia, which is comfortably over the ankle. Fluid breath. Feel your heel, the back of your foot. Feel the spacious arches. Lift your heart and breathe three-dimensionally into your torso. Four corners even. And step down. Come back onto your mat. Four corners of the feet grounding, lift your toes, lift your arches. Relax your toes. Broad across the shoulder girdle, find the shoulder blades on your back body and lift to one toe. Hug in from the hips, supporting the outer knee, and turn your knee out and lift your arms into Vrksasana. Root the four corners of your standing foot and just lift the foot off. Don't even touch the leg. Fluid breath. If you need to touch your toe down, you can. Broaden your shoulder girdle. Feel into the four corners of your standing foot working. The three arches, trying to support the cushion for your foot, for your body, for your joints. Bring the knee forward and step down. Make sure that your foot is long. Let's put the big toe ball mound on the ground and stretch back to the inner heel. Strap across to the pinky toe, stretch back to the outer heel. Broad from big toe to pinky toe. Relax your toes and lift to the other toe and lift your arms like limbs of a tree. Hug in banks of your river at the buttocks. Check in that your femur bone is aligned over your tibia. You're not hyperextending. Turn the lifted knee out and float the foot. Fluid breath. Really feel into the knee of your standing leg and notice how it reacts to the movement that happens in your ankle. The muscles all the way up your leg are working. Feel for them. Get to know them. Try not to grip the toes. Instead, root the four corners of the feet to create stability for the knee. And step down. And roll one shoulder up and back and the other. And point one toe off the floor. And roll. We should say next week, next class, we should bring tennis balls. So I am not going to be here next week for this class, for my classes. And I've been working on a newsletter that just hasn't gotten done because I'm going to be assisting a workshop at Esalen. But you will have links to videos, and I will publish other videos that I haven't released on YouTube. So you'll have a lot of material to work with. Walk your feet back in to standing. Ground the four corners again and pause in your Tadasana. Everybody take your head forward. Notice how that changes the feeling in your knees and feet, and bring your head and heart back. Now take your head back. Notice how your knees and feet respond. Come back to center. Try to find that balance. Let the hot air balloon lift you off your feet and lift your toe and turn your foot out. And this time, lift into your Vriksasana, wherever that is. Foot on the calf, kickstand, foot on the inner thigh. Hug the midline. Root into your four corners. Feel your three arches. Shoulder blades strong on the back body. Fluid breath. Can you concentrate on three-dimensional breath and the four corners of your foot? What arm position helps you best with balance? Experiment. And then bring your lifted knee forward and step down. We bring the knee forward to step down because that's a little safer for the knee joint. And inhale, lift your arms and your limbs and find your shoulders in connection with your buttocks and lift to a toe. And turn the knee out and hug in the banks of your river and lift the foot. And if you'd like to, bring it to your calf or your inner thigh. And drawing in from the hips, grow your tree taller as you root your standing foot. From the hip, press down into the standing foot and see if that helps you balance. As you root that leg, lift the spine, lift the heart. The rooting to rise can help you create the core strength in the center. Root the foot, rise away from the foot. Beautiful. And bring your knee forward and step down and roll one shoulder and the other and let yourself stretch open and let go of tension that can develop in a balanced pose. Okay. Let's come to our wall and reach our fingers up high, coming onto the metatarsal arch from big toe ball mound to pinky toe ball mound. So you lift up onto the balls of your feet. Fingers at least as wide as the shoulders, maybe wider. Start to release the heel to the floor. Now really think of drawing the heel back behind you as you release the heel to the floor. And feel into the inner and outer arch. Take a few breaths here, acknowledging your arches. Three-dimensional breaths. And then walk back, coming into your half dog. Keep aware of the arches. Look down at your knees. Align them over your second metatarsals and then float one foot up behind you. Keep the femur bone over the tibia bone. Don't lock the knee back. Lift the core underneath the spine and lengthen. And press out of your lifted foot and lengthen through the top of your head and see if that stretch can help you to balance over your standing leg, coming onto fingertips or coming off the wall. Feel into the four corners and three arches working. How the knee and the hip respond to the movement in the ankle. And step down and walk in, fingertips even with shoulders. Root into the four corners of your feet. Lift your heart. Root your tailbone so you can lift your low back rib ring. And feel into this idea of sinking your feet into the earth, growing your roots to lift the shoulder blades under the back ribs. Lift the base of the skull away from the base of the neck. Three-dimensional breath. Now notice if you can spread from big toe ball mound to pinky toe ball mound and relax your toes while still feeling into the four corners of each foot, balancing your weight evenly side to side. Hug in the banks of your river. See if you can find any more length up into the armpits, along the sides of the neck. And exhale, release. Reach your fingers up the wall wide. Step onto your metatarsal arch from big toe to pinky toe and slowly lower your heels back behind you. Create a spacious arch. And as you ground inner and outer heel, feel into that space for a breath. Remember the space under your arches when you had the blocks. Feel for that space and walk your pelvis back, grounding the four corners of your feet. Come to your fingertips and float the next leg up behind you. Root into the four corners of your standing foot. Check in with your knee, look at it, aligned over the second metatarsal, femur bone right over tibia. Reach out through the lifted heel. Press like you could lengthen the leg. Lengthen from the pelvis through the spine and see if you can lift your fingertips off the wall. Fluid breath. Three-dimensional breath. Feel into the four corners of your lifted foot now. And step down. Step into the wall, fingers at shoulder height. Draw the hands down and rooting the feet rise. Let the heart lift, supported by the shoulder blades and back, supported by the rooting tailbone. You've created a triangle between your feet and the tailbone. And inside of that, you lift the pelvic floor and lengthen the spine all the way into the skull. And exhale, release, and turn your back to the wall. Humerus bones resting back, broad across your collarbones. Ground the four corners of each foot into the floor. Fluid breath into the whole circumference of the torso. Notice if you hug in a foot or clinch it in, try to open the foot and ground the four corners. See if the foot can become receptive to the floor. If you can feel more into the foot and let go any tension that may be changing your posture. Feel the tibia bone right up over the talus bone of the ankle. Feel the knee. And shift your weight over one foot and lift to the toe of the other. Head of the arm bone still resting back and broad. We're strengthening the back body and opening the front chest. But we keep rooted into the four corners of the feet. Lift the three arches and lift the knee. And if you'd like to, straighten the leg forward. Padangusthasana. Now, as you straighten the leg forward, you may feel the other leg really has to work. Don't hyperextend. Root down into the four corners and grow taller. And bend the knee and step down and shift your weight back to center. Notice how grounded the working leg may feel. And then shift your weight and balance on the next foot, lifting to your toe. Root from the pelvis down, really press into the floor and lift the knee. From the pelvis, lengthen up through the top of the head and see if you can straighten the leg. Shoulders still back and broad. Oh, these look good. Good job. And bend your knee and step down and step out away from the wall. And pause for a moment. Notice if you shift to your habit in the feet. Did you roll out or roll in? Try to find the three arches, lift your toes, relax your toes. Think about your center palate now, over the heart center, over the pelvis center. Femur bones right over the tibia, tibia right over the ankle. Ah, it feels good when we find that alignment. Shoulder blades on our back, eyes resting back in their sockets. Root down into both feet like you're pushing the legs into the ground. And then get your seat. Okay, so let's try this activity a few times because I really want us to get that pushing down to rise up action because it has you use a little different musculature. So align your heels with your sit bones. Sit far enough back on your chair that you're going to believe the chair's still there when you come back down. And think of leaning your heart forward over the arches of your feet. And press down into the feet and press up with the top of the head and stand. Now I want you to notice one thing that happens sometimes as people age and have struggles getting up out of chairs is that their knees start to knock together. So keep your knees lining up right over your second metatarsals and lean the heart forward over the arches. Lift your toes, lift your arches. Relax your toes, press the feet down, but keep the arches lifting. Lift the heart, press up with the head. Now stay here and lift up onto the metatarsal arch, lifting your heels. And lower your heels and bend the legs. Keep your arches, keep your knees aligned, and sit back down. And one more time, come forward. Knees over second metatarsals. Lift your toes, lift your arches. Heart right over the arches of your feet. Relax your toes. Press the feet into the ground and lift the head. And lengthen up. A lift to the metatarsal arch. Feel your big toe and pinky toe ball mound. We're strengthening the arches of the feet in doing this. And release back to the seat. Rub your inner knee right at the inside of the thigh. We want to wake up this vastus medialis, this main quad at the inner knee that helps us track our kneecap, and float your foot up in a little bit of a turnout, 10 degrees. And don't hyperextend your knee. So now just bend your leg a little bit and then straighten it. Bend and straighten and keep your thumb or your finger on that inner knee and feel for that inner quad. It's kind of like a teardrop shape on, if you see like people who do a lot of biking, that muscle gets really strong. We want to feel for that muscle right here. Massage it with your thumb and finger. It only will get strong in people if their legs can extend, because it's in that last 20 degrees of extension that we really turn this muscle on. As soon as you hyperextend, it turns off. And release. Try the other side. Lift. You're in your 10-degree turnout. Feel for that muscle. Massage it a little and bend and straighten. And bend and straighten. Those of you who hyperextend, avoid going into hyperextension. Massage it, feel for it. Haha, good morning, vastus medialis. We want you as a part of our practice. We strengthen this muscle in our standing pose as if our knees are well aligned. And release and press down and come to standing and turn your chair for Parsvottanasana and take your rock step. Either foot forward. Make sure you're not standing on a tightrope. And inhale, rooting the four corners of both feet. Reach for the sky. Lift your toes, lift your arches. Relax your toes and hinge forward. Long spine. Bring your hands wide on your prop and either push it forward or step back and draw the front leg hip crease back. Now right here, there would be the chance to force your knees back towards hyperextension. Instead, root all four corners of your feet. Ground the feet and find the femur bone over the tibia. Really try to look for that. Fluid breath. Three-dimensional breath. If you want to walk lower, you can. Front hip crease drawing back. But don't come lower and hyperextend the back knee. Don't come lower and overly pull the hamstring on the sit bone. And as you come forward, notice, does it feel like the outer hamstring in the back of the leg or the inner may be tighter? Fluid breath. You may roll the hip a little bit to discover which hamstring may be inhibiting you. And then find neutral with the pelvis. Press down with the four corners of your feet as you rise up out of the pose and lift your heart towards the sky. Exhale, mountain pose. Pause for a moment in your mountain pose. Feel into the arches of your feet. And then take your next rock step. These arches are our cushions. They're our spring. We want them alive and well. Ground the four corners. Lift your toes. Lift your heart. Lengthen up. And exhale, fold forward. Make sure you're not throwing your knees back into hyperextension. Stretch the spine long. Draw the front hip crease back. Root through the bones of your legs that are aligned down into the bones of the feet. Feel into those three arches that support your body. Three-dimensional breath. Fluid breath. If we roll out on the outer edges of our feet, we misalign the knee. If we roll in and flatten, we misalign the knee. So we stay aware of these four corners of our feet. And it may be that we need to take the back heel a little farther back, that we feel like we're twisting our knee a little bit. Listen to the intelligence of your body. What foot position is best for your knee? Root down into the floor to lift back up. Hands to the heart, mountain pose. Float the body up over the feet. Fluid breath. Okay, come to sitting on your chair again. And bring the left foot under your chair, pointed back behind you. And slowly bring the foot forward, stretching the front ankle and the front fascia of the foot. Can you stay aligned over your two sit bones and think of that diamond of the pelvic floor balanced? Even as you draw this leg up and start stretching the front of the foot and the shin. So we practice our upper body postural alignment even as we stretch the front of the foot. Fluid breath. And only come to where the stretch is right for you, where you feel like, okay, there can be a release happening here. And breathe into the stretch. And relax the foot into the stretch. And invite the body to remember the stretch. Three-dimensional breath. If we contort our face because we're coming into some pain, then that sends a message to the body, uh-oh, something bad's happening. We've got to grip and get tense. So you want to be able to be in a position where you can still smile, where you can still relax, and then release the foot and play piano with this foot for a moment. Play piano, let the toes move, stretch out across the keyboard, and then bring the other foot back. Sitting up nice and tall, three-dimensional breath. Draw the foot forward little by little. Feel into the stretch of the bones of the feet and the chin, the ankle. Fluid breath. Fluid breath. seeing if you can relax into the stretch, whatever position you choose. And then release and play the piano with this foot, with both feet. Now grounding your heel, lift the foot off, the upper foot, the front foot off the floor. Reach your toes long like you could grab something and draw it back under your feet. So imagine there's a piece of fabric in front of you. You're reaching your toes out. You're drawing it in under the arches. Or imagine there's a quarter or a dime for each toe to reach for, and they're drawing them in under the feet. And do this a few more times, and notice how you're stretching the metatarsal knuckles while you're strengthening the muscles on the underside of the foot. And don't underestimate the importance of foot exercises. Pilates has a whole series of foot exercises to help people open and strengthen their feet. One more. And then rest your feet on the floor. And think of bringing your heart up over the arches of your feet again. And inhale, rooting down into the feet, just lift to hover in your Utkatasana. Ground all four corners of your feet and either bring your hands to your heart, open them wide, or bring them up by your ears. Or root the feet down from the pelvis, and from that rooting, see if you can lengthen the spine a little more. Shoulder girdle broad, and come into your three-dimensional breath. Find an even weight from the heel to the big toe and pinky toe. Think of the blocks underneath your feet. Let both arches on the sides of your feet exist. And press down and rise up. And exhale your hands to your heart, mountain pose. Fluid breath. Now move the chair out of your way. And stand with one foot in front for your cranes. And exhale, float your arms down. And inhale, lift up. Now I want you to look down with both feet on the floor. And track your knees out over the second metatarsal. So it's okay if that back standing foot turns out a little bit, as long as the knee also turns out over the second toe. So watch your knee for a moment. Imagine there's a headlight on that knee, and it's tracking out over that metatarsal. And then we lift to the front toe, and we continue this work. Those of you who worked in the workshop yesterday, that vastus medialis, feel how it's working here. That inner knee quad is working here. And then float your foot up and exhale, bend the knee and float and bend. Try to keep that knee tracking right over your second metatarsal. Fluid breath. Creating strength in the vastus medialis will help us track our kneecap. And we land the front foot and step the other foot forward. Notice your foot for a moment. Keep both feet on the ground and bend. Knees track out over the second metatarsal, whatever position the foot is in. That keeps the bend out over the ankle. Does that make sense? So we want the knee to get to be a hinge joint. We're not twisting it in different directions. And now lift to the toe of the front foot and notice how, okay, I've put more work into that inner knee. And then maybe you float the foot off the floor and land it. Feel if there's a lot of play in your knee. If there is, come back to the toe. Work on strengthening that vastus medialis first. Fluid breath. Inhaling and exhaling. Pressing down into your standing leg and pressing up with the top of your head. Fluid breath. Fluid movement, conscious of the four corners of the feet and the three arches. We inhale up and land. Mountain pose. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. Ground the four corners of your feet. Lift the heel of one foot and spread from big toe to pinky toe, and then draw back to the heel and place it down. Lift the other foot, big toe to pinky toe, draw the heel back. Let it lengthen behind you like a bird talon. Now settle onto the feet again. And bending your knees out over your second metatarsals, come back into your Utkatasana. Knees opening over the toes, staying wide. Feel down into your inner knee. There it is, your vastus medialis working. You feel it? It's turned on, right? Bring your hands back to your heart. Now keep those knees tracking right over the second toe by continuing to balance your arches as you exhale and twist the spine in one direction. And inhale to center. Notice how you've gained awareness of your knees so it may be easier to keep them stable. Come back to center. Keep the knees over those second tarsals. Inhaling to center. Exhaling the twist. Inhale to center. Exhale the twist. Inhale to center. Release the arms and inhale. Stretch towards the sky. Interlace your fingers. Thumbs to the base of the skull. Root the four corners of your feet as you lift your elbows. Root the tailbone as the third leg of your stool. And lift up through the pelvic floor. Feel how those roots in your feet can support the lengthening of your spine. And if you'd like to, unfurl your arms and stretch skyward. Lift the heart. And exhale. Come back through center. Either bring in your blocks or your chair for Prasarita Padottanasana. Stepping your feet wide. Heels a little wider than your toe box. But make sure your feet are wide. Okay, our toes often get cramped into the fronts of shoes, so let them spread out here. Hands to your pelvic rim. Root from the pelvis into the four corners of your feet. Lift your toes, lift your arches, lift your heart. Feel for the inner arches and the outer arches, and relax your toes. Lift the heart and stretch the spine. Root into the four corners of the feet and grow taller. And then exhale, fold forward. As you fold forward, make sure you don't throw your knees back into hyperextension. Come down to whatever height of the blocks is right for you and come forward into a forward folds, downward dog, wide-legged downward dog. You can wrap your fingers over the chair seat or over your furniture and track or your blocks and traction your pelvis back. Three-dimensional breath into the torso. Check in with your knees again. See if you can align femur bone with tibia and press down into the four corners of the feet. And lift the three arches up towards the pelvic floor. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. Maybe you sway the shoulders a little side to side to stretch the fascia in the upper body while we stay rooted from the pelvis into the feet. And then root into center and draw the blocks back underneath you. Place your right hand on the block and let the left shoulder blade lift onto the ribs. Look at your feet. Are they balanced? And then reach the left arm skyward, rooting into the right hand. Fluid breath. Long spine, tacking the sit bones back. And exhale, release the lifted arm. And inhale, float the right wing on. Tack the left sit bone back if you decide to open into the twist. Don't drop the left hip in. See what happens if you drop the left hip in. You're going to stretch the inner left knee and the flatten, perhaps flatten the inner arch. Stay grounded in the outer heel of the left foot. Fluid breath into your twist. The twist comes in the spine. And if it doesn't come, then we don't go there. But we don't go there by compromising in the hip and knee. Exhale, release, and float yourself back up and step your feet in, mountain pose. Imagine you're on the blocks again and balance over your arches. Palate over heart, heart over pelvis. Three-dimensional breath. Femur bone over tibia. Float onto one hip and lift to one toe. And float the arms and legs up and touch. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Step down. Plant the next 4 corners and lift to the toe. And lift and tap. 2, 3, 4, and 5, and step down. Mountain pose. Lean onto the right foot, feel the 4 corners, and inhale. Take the left foot out to the side and lift skyward. And exhale, slowly lower. Step onto the left foot, take the right foot out, and inhale, lift. Strong in the foot and strong in the knee. And exhale, or release. And pause in your mountain pose. Okay, let's come to the floor and let's try this blanket roll exercise for the vastus medialis one more time. If any of you can't come to the floor, then you can do the exercise we did on the chair where we were straightening the knee again. Okay, but if you can come to the floor, you'll bring a blanket roll under your knee like this, and you'll bring your back up against the furniture, and you'll open your feet out just at a little bit at like a 10-degree angle out, and place the blanket roll right under your knees. Now, you could also be on a bolster with a bigger blanket roll, right? You just want to make sure your knees won't hyperextend when you press them down. So bring your hand to the inner knee. And you can also use, I'm leaning against my couch. Yeah, so Susie is too. Yeah. So those of you on the blanket roll now, press your knees down and rub your hands along that vastus medialis and lift up and press the knees in and release and press and release. And I feel like my blanket roll is a little too big. I'm going to roll it out a little because you want to be able to get towards that, towards straight, right? But not completely. Press down. Yeah, that's better. So if you had a really big blanket roll, you want to put a smaller one in. Yeah. Good. Yeah, that'll be interesting, John, to try the foam roller. Yeah. Fluid breath. Press and release. Have your fingers massaging this. I went to a physical therapy appointment once with someone whose vastus medialis wasn't active, and the physical therapist actually had her take the prongs of a fork and like tap to try to wake it up. So I'm not quite that mean. Just tap with your fingers. But really do try to kind of wake up your consciousness into this inner knee. And you press down and release and press down and release and press down and release. So John, because you're on a higher blanket roll like I was, you want to make sure the blanket roll isn't too high. Like Deb's looks good if you all can see her. When you press down, you want to bring your leg towards straight. Yeah, so your heels could lift off a little. If you feel like You're not going to go into hyperextension that way, which I don't think you will, John. Yeah. So we press down and lift and press down. Maybe your heels lift a little. Feel for that muscle. And you don't want to do too many reps of this, but you can do it many times during the day to try to wake that muscle up. Okay, and one more. Good. And let's release. Come to the mat and let's lie down. Bring your blocks and put them at the foot of your mat. Okay. And place your feet onto the blocks. So no pillow yet, because we're lifting into a bridge. Now you can't see your feet, so you have to think, I've been doing a lot of standing where I align my heels with my sit bones. You may be able to bring your fingers down to your heels, some of you, and then draw your fingers up to your sit bones and kind of feel where your sit bones are. Align your heels with your sit bones and then feel, what does parallel with the second metatarsals feel like? Now feel for the lumbar curve. It's like now if your back were your footprint, you'd be printing in one side of your sacrum and the other, one shoulder and the other, and you'd have your neutral lumbar curve. Now press the four corners of your feet into your block and bring your arms into robot arms, palms facing across your torso. And engage the head of your humerus bone back, just like we did on the wall. And pressing the whole of the arm bone back, lift the pelvis. Keep your gaze perpendicular to the floor as you lift into the bridge. And swing the right hip slightly skyward, and then the left, coming into your somatic walking. And feel how as your hips move, your knee compensates to keep your tibia balanced over your ankle. So just kind of experiment and feel into, oh, what does the knee do in response to my moving hip? And how is the shin bone then interacting with my ankle bone over the arches of my feet? Now come back to neutral and collapse your arches in. Notice what happens to your knees. Your inner arches in. And then come back to neutral and collapse out to the pinky toe side. What happens to the knees? Bring the feet back into neutral. Knees aligning over the second metatarsal. Exhale, lower the pelvis towards the floor. Inhale, float it skyward. Exhale, lower down. And inhale, float skyward. And feel how your pelvis works with the hinge of the knee, works with the hinge of the ankle, works from the stability of your shoulders and the four corners of your feet. Feel your pinky toe ball mounds, your big toe ball mounds, your inner and outer heels. And you may roll across the foot a little bit. The pinky toe may lift slightly its heaviness as the pelvis lowers, and then reconnect it. But make sure you're conscious of what is happening. Pelvis to knee to foot. Now lift back up with the pelvis and hug the sit bones together and pulse them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and hold. Lengthen the knees out over your second metatarsals. Press into the head of the humerus bone and the whole humerus bone. Keep your neck in its cervical curve. Relax the buttocks and roll down one vertebrae at a time. Feel into the support of your feet and the alignment of your knees, even as you roll your spine. Inhale and exhale, tailbone skyward. Peel the spine off the floor, lifting the pelvis back up. Take a deep inhale. And exhale, roll back down one vertebrae at a time. Rolling through into your natural curve. Exhale, tailbone skyward, peel off. Now we work on opening the spine, releasing vertebrae by vertebrae. Because part of what we want in becoming more conscious of each of these body parts is more fluid and easeful motion. Feel the parts of your body that are stabilizing you to release each vertebrae to the floor. Come into your neutral curve, tailbone skyward, peel each vertebrae off the floor. Feel into your shoulders and feet, the back of your head. Ground your arms and lift the heart, the top of your next bridge. And then one more time, soften the buttocks and roll down. And draw one knee into your chest and then the other. And circle the legs wide apart and back together again. And now draw the right leg in and lengthen the left leg out and bring your left hand to your inner knee and your right hand to your ankle. Okay, so here we are. This is now our Pilates core work. But the reason we have our hand on our knee and towards our ankle is so that we align the shin bone to keep the knee, hip, and ankle in a healthy alignment. Now feel into your extended leg from pelvis to knee to foot. And try to straighten that extended leg without hyperextending so that you work your vastus medialis. And we switch. You can nod your nose towards your mouth and almost lift from the hairline. Coming into your single leg stretches. We wake up the core, but we use the feet, reach the feet out of the body. Think of pressing with the foot like you were pressing down into the floor to come to standing. Lengthen out through the top of the head the same way. And come back in with your knees. And reach your hands and feet for the sky. Neutral lumbar curve. Zip up the inseam of your legs. Point your feet. So point your feet and then flex the toes back. Take the wrists away from the ankles. Keep your neutral curve to your spine. Hug the midline with the hips and circle and hug the knees in. And inhale out and circle and come in. And reach out with the four corners of your feet and circle and come in. Press out through the knee without hyperextending, but try to find that length so that you work strength in that vastus medialis. Reach, circle and hug. Reach, circle and hug. Inhale and exhale. Last one. Reach, circle and hug. Now, bring your hands behind your head, flat on flat, and exhale, lift your right elbow as you extend the right leg. Look for a long leg and switch. Now, some of you have heavy, long legs because you're taller, and you may not want to come fully to straight here. So then this will not be the place where you work your vastus medialis. But those of you who can, press out through the foot. Lift the elbow. Lift the elbow, press the foot, long spine, tractioning the back of the neck, resting the head back. We're working our obliques now, yes, but we can still be working that inner thigh. Come back to center and relax your head and draw the knees in and circle the knees together so that you feel the perimeter of your sacrum. Fluid breath now massaging your SI joints. Notice how the position of the knees really affects the pelvis. And take this circle the other way. Now pause with your knees out to the left and feel how, by taking the knees left, you're rearranging the pelvis. And continue your circle. And pause on the right. Feel the knee relationship to the pelvis and continue the circle. And come back to center and hold your femur bones behind your hamstrings, behind your knees, and lift your feet towards the sky, half happy baby. Some of you will hold on with your hands at the thigh Some of you will be able to bring your hands to the outside edge of your foot, half happy baby. Fluid breath, full happy baby. You may rock your pelvis a little back and forth. Three-dimensional breath. And come back to center. And release one foot to the floor and then the other. You can move your blocks out of your way. And lift your pelvis and draw your bolster or your folded blanket underneath. You could also use a block into your supported bridge. Rest your shoulders broad. Rest back from your center palate. And float one leg into tabletop and the other to join. And straighten your legs, taking one leg overhead. That knee may need to bend for your hamstrings. And the other leg down the mat. And I just want you to feel into bending the knees here, flexing the feet, and then pressing long. And bend. And press. So think of that press when we stood up from the chair. Press the legs into the imaginary ground. Press. Yeah, beautiful. Press. Try to find straighten the knee, especially that back leg. So you don't have to be really low to the ground if it feels like it's straining your back at all. Just stretch. And the flexed foot, we're stretching the fascia in the backs of the legs. One more. And then point your toes and come as wide as is comfortable. And come back in from that width, about 5 inches, and pulse, pulse, and switch. Flex the feet and bend the knees and press and bend and press and bend and press. Now you may have to open your legs at a different angle, but notice, can the knees stay in line with the second metatarsal even as you kind of come into a turnout, if your leg does that a little bit in the front. And then point your toes, take the legs straight, come as wide as you can, come back in 5 inches and pulse, pulse and switch, pulse, pulse and switch. The pulse is just a little bounce, a little inch bounce, a tiny bounce. So don't make it big. Bounce, bounce. We're working on precision. Bounce, bounce. Your toes are really pointed. We're stretching the fascia of the legs. Now flex the feet. Press out through the heel. You might have to come smaller in your motion. Feel where you're stretching in the back hamstrings, in the backs of the knees, in the back calves. We want to balance this musculature so it doesn't pull the knee out of alignment. So we stretch it. Fluid breath. Come right into riding a bicycle. Let yourself ride the bicycle. There are so many benefits of this work with our legs up and our pelvis slightly lifted. The blood gets to flow out of the legs, down back to the heart easily. The lymph gets to flow down into the groins, into the lymph nodes there. The blood from the heart easily flows to the neck and head. But beyond that, you're stretching the fascia and strengthening your core. Now let's bicycle backwards. Every time your leg comes out long down the mat, your psoas and your hip flexors have to work. But we're also stretching the hamstrings in the back of the calves. Now flex the feet and bicycle backwards and press the heel out and up, out and up, out and up. Try to find that length in the back of the leg. And come back to center and let your knees rest in a little towards the heart, feet above the knees, and pause with legs up the sky. Broad shoulders, fluid breath. Lift your hands up towards the sky. On your next inhale, reach your fingers away from the floor, lifting the shoulders, and exhale, relax the shoulders back down. And inhale, lift the hands, and exhale, release the arm bones, and reach and release. Let the feet rest and focus on the upper body for a moment. Lift, stretch the shoulders up, and relax them back down. A few more times. And then relaxing them into their sockets. Bring the hands up overhead, onto the floor if they'll go that far. And if not, just hold the stretch that feels okay to you. So hover, feel into lengthening through the shoulder. And then when you're ready, exhale the arms back up and release them down to your sides. Three-dimensional breath. Can you invite your breath again into the back body? Feel it move against the floor. Move out towards the bolster. Breathe into your side bodies. Breathe your chest and side bodies wide. Breathe into the front belly and chest. Relaxing on the exhales. Relaxing the eyes and any tension in the face and jaw. And then gently roll your knees forward over your heart and bring your feet to your bolster, pressing the bolster out. You can rest your knees over the bolster or rest the palms of your feet together on the bolster and let your knees open. If you need a blanket for your Shavasana, bring it in. And let yourself settle back. Wherever you are, feel for a moment into the feet. Thank them for all that they do for you unconsciously. Breathe into the knees. All the steps and movements they've hinged for you where you haven't noticed. Feel how all the parts of your body are linked to one another. Feel into this vast and intricate community. And then let your mind rest. Your eyes release back in their sockets. Your body grow heavy. Let yourself just sink into relaxed awareness in this moment. And if your mind wanders into thoughts, see if you can bring it back to the breath and the body, relaxing a little more deeply with each exhale. Inviting any unneeded stored tension to roll out with your exhales. And as we deepen our breath and bring energy back into the body, let's begin by moving the toes, by moving the feet, really sensing them. And then move in a way that you can acknowledge your knees. How they're a conduit of energy between pelvis and ankles. And then stretch in whatever way feels good to you. And when you're ready, roll over onto your side for a moment. And then come on up to a comfortable seat. Whatever seated position you come into, feel into how your tibia and your femur align. Does it feel okay in your body? Feel into your seat. And lengthen the spine up from that balanced pelvic floor. And let's inhale our hands to our hearts. May we offer gratitude to our feet and our knees, into these parts of our body that help us ground and help us move freely. Namaste. Thank you.